Hey everybody, it's Adam again and welcome back to my garage. Today I am super excited to introduce the next biggest project to the channel. So we've got my 1995 BMW 318 Ti E36 body, and we're going to make this all-wheel drive. We're going to turbo it, we're going to drop a 6-cylinder under the hood, and what I want to do is really make this like an STi version of a BMW, and a hatchback of course. So we're calling this project E36 Xti. We're going to add a 6-speed all-wheel drive transmission and transfer case from an E90, and we're going to put the front cradle and front differential from a 325 Xi E46 into this car. Come along for the ride. All right, Andrew's rolling her back here right now. Mama's gonna be happy with the paint job. I think we'll make this my son's first car here, Andrew.
I hope you don't hate him that much.
He'll probably get in the, we'll put a bucket in the driver's seat and he'll pretend to drive it for a little bit.
Make sure you get it.
I'm gonna have to close the door here at some point too. How's that side looking?
You're good. You're good.
Got the bucket.
Bring it until the wheels are almost come out. All right, ready? There you go.
The old pump's pumping up in the back. This up and we'll back it up a little bit and we'll get her tightened up in there. Everybody, we got the second major purchase for the E36 318 Xti. Picked up a 2001 325 Xi. It's an E46. There we go. That's my kind of people right there. Yeah, we're gonna take this home, and Mama's gonna be real impressed with the paint job. I can tell you that much. All right. Almost forgot. Can't take a trip to Ohio without picking up some of the Midwest's finest. Something I don't think I mentioned when we picked the car up. This car has no brake pedals in it, and we'll do a walk around of this in a little bit, but it's got everything on the corners. But when we were moving it around at the guy's house I picked it up from, I put my foot down there and there was no brake. He said it had a massive brake leak, and I can see why. The e-brake really doesn't work well either. So here's what we're going to do. Those brake rotors that I pulled from the Yukon back before wintertime serve as a pretty good chock here. I've also got the rear rotor sitting here, and just in case we bump past those when we're coming down, I got these ramps, and then just in case we bump past that, I've got the basketball hoop here with a ramp behind it to keep it from going up and into the garage door. We'll see what happens here. Wish me luck. I guess that e-brake is holding a little better than I expected. Not sure how she'll do to stop us. Sometimes you just gotta send it. Here we go. Yeah, she's moving. Oh, there we go. All right. I'd say that was a success. I just got to figure out how to get out of here now. So you'll notice we didn't have to use these brakes at all up here up front. The primary method of retention and slowing her down was this tow strap on the back, and thankfully everything went to plan here, because if it didn't, I would have had to use any one of those three methods to stop me up there. And by the way, the e-brake, right when she started getting momentum, didn't stop anymore. So this is awesome. Life is good. Let's start with some of the components we just got laying around here that I've been piecing together the last few weeks. So obviously the first one is the E36. Still runs good with the M42. I'm going to pull that out and save that for in case my E21's M42 ever blows up. Back here, you may have seen in a recent short that I went to pick up a 6-speed all-wheel drive transmission. So this is out of an E90 Xi. I think it was a 330 Xi. And what I like about this one is it's got the 6-speed on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what I get really geeked up about is it's got the electronic transfer case on the middle here as well. So there's no viscous clutch or anything like that in here. It's basically an electronically controlled clutch that diverts power away from the rear wheels to the front as necessary. As you can see right now, just a minimal lockup there going through there. And I think the default state for this transfer case really is like 90% rear wheel drive. So transmission is connected directly to this. In this model, the E90, I'll show you an E46 transfer case in a second. I've been trying to figure out why people tell me the drivetrain on the E46 is so bad in the iX. So we'll dive into that a little bit more in a future episode. Also, with this electronic transfer case down here, there's a connector up on the side here, and it runs an actuator. We're going to go more in depth on that as we do the project. But what my ultimate goal is, you may say, well, you don't have an E90 all-wheel drive control system in the car. What are you going to do for controlling the torque in that transfer case? I'm going to dig into how that actuator works down there. And basically, I'm going to create my own controller for it. And I'm going to use the sensors that are inside the transfer case, as well as put a little knob up on my dashboard or down by the shifter, kind of like you have with the 2004 STi. And basically, I'm going to create a little module that creates a manual DCCD or driver-controlled center diff, just like you have with the Subarus. So as I'm driving around, whether it's on normal driving or out on the trail, I can adjust it how I want, with whether I want 50-50 split or mostly rear wheel drive. We'll see what happens, and we're going to do a little controller for that. Back over here, talked about increasing the capability of the rear diff. Some of you may recognize that lower diff cover, and you'll probably also recognize that I got a big old cracked mounting point on there. We'll fix that as a part of this project. What this is a rear diff out of a 2000 Z3 M. I wanted the M variety in particular because that had the S52 in it, I believe. And it's also got a limited slip rear diff on it. It's not a clutch limited slip. It's a Zexel Torsen, which has the helical gears inside of it. Very, very similar to a Quaife type differential. Also very similar to what I have in my Sonoma now, what I put in there. I really like the characteristics of those rear diffs. So this is a 3.23 to 1 ratio, which is important because the front differential on the E46 is also a 3.23. Didn't want to get into doing gear swaps or anything like that with this, so found this guy for a relatively good price on eBay due to the damaged goods here. And like I said, we'll take care of that. I don't have any problems with that. The other good thing about this is it'll mount right up into the E36. This is what you call a medium case differential. It was found on the E30s all the way up through the Z3M and the later E36 models that were using the E30 rear end, like the Ti, as well as the Z3s. Currently, what the E36 has in it is a 3.45 to 1 ratio small case diff. And I think what I'll end up doing is just taking that diff out and maybe harvesting the gears out of it and putting it in the E21 there at some point. So that's the rear diff. All right, it's time for some introductions here. So as you saw, we got the E46 off the trailer here this morning. I guess we'll start out with the interior on this car. This is a 2001 E46 325 Xi. So the Xi, for those of you that don't know about the BMW nomenclature, that means that it's all-wheel drive. The X means that it's all-wheel drive. And pretty much every BMW except for the diesels and the ADAs in the 80s have an I on them because it means fuel injected. So it's kind of a thing that we just assumes on every vehicle now. So yeah, this is a 2001 E46 with 180,000 miles on it. Picked it up from a guy down in Ohio, and he was basically parting it out. As you can see, he took the doors off of it, replaced the doors that were on this car onto his track car at home. A little bit of a story behind that one, and we'll get into that later. But at the end of the day, basically, I'm here for the front drivetrain, front cradle, and then also the drive shafts, and really, potentially the rear brakes. But really, I'm not planning on saving anything off the rear end of the car. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, we'll just end up scrapping it. It ends up, it's pretty gnarly here with some rust. Not that the E36 isn't. I'm going to work on that. But underneath, it is pretty notorious for, at least E46s are notorious for the rear end rot on these. And luckily, I'm not really using any parts off the rear end. So once I get the E36 running, I'll probably put some nice aggressive snow tires on these 17s to kind of honor this donor car that everything came from. Let's take a look inside real quick. As you can see, she's pretty well been scraped through, parted out. But a couple things that caught my eye when I was looking through it just the other day to see what ended up bringing home with me. So we got at least the front half of the rear drive shaft there. Looks to be in pretty good shape. Not really any rust or anything on it. There's a little bit of surface rust. Very important piece here. This is our front drive shaft. So that's going to connect from our transfer case up to the front differential on the E36. Couple of airbags sitting underneath there. I don't know if those are part of the Takata recall or not, but we got some airbags there. I'll be careful handling those. The spare tires back here. So I got another set of these nice E46 wheels. This Home Depot bucket I added in here this morning when I tried to roll the car off the truck. Ended up being too tall for that. Looks like certified pre-owned vehicle program brochure down there. So I guess the nice thing is this was a certified pre-owned car at one point. So that's promising. Maybe the engine will work when I go ahead and drop it in the E36. Kind of taking a little chance on that. Nice thing too, we got the nice M54 valve cover on here as well. We got a heat shield underneath, O2 sensor. Little bit of background on the car. I asked the previous owner if it was running at all, and he said it wouldn't start. It wasn't getting fuel. It cranked, had spark and everything, but no, it didn't have. It wasn't getting spark because he said you could hear the fuel pump priming and everything. So we're going to dig into that. Obviously, we're going to switch to Mega Squirt or similar ECU on this, so I can do some E85 tuning. But let's see what we got in this. Oh, sounds like it's got a part inside there. They also said this car had some brake issues on it, so I don't know what do we got here. Well, we got looks like a drum brake cylinder. This car obviously has disc brakes on all four corners. So if there was a brake problem and someone tried to fix it with that, They weren't going anywhere. Oh, I see an OEM floor jack down there. That's nice. Looks like a rusted out piece of oh no, well, the piece was rusted off the edge there for looks like some sort of skid plate or something from up front, and maybe a sock or something down there. That looks nice. But I think we got a couple of nice parts in here, and we'll be able to use some of these as we go along in the project. All right, let's walk up here and take a look underneath the hood. There we go. So she doesn't have the engine cover on it, or the valve cover, the intake manifold cover. And you can see there was a little troubleshooting going on with the ignition system, the ignition coils. Actually, I got those in the back of the truck. But basically, yeah, we got a standard M54 B25 here. So that means it's a 2.5 liter displacement. A little bit of sludge down inside there, but at 180,000 miles, I guess, I wouldn't expect anything different. Let's check the oil here real quick. Never know what you're going to get with a parts car, but I guess we'll see what we got with this. You know, she doesn't look too bad there. I mean, obviously, oil hasn't been changed in a little while. Kind of dark, but I mean, smells good. No coolant smell, not milky, nothing like that, so that's good. We might get lucky here, and once we start her back up, then we'll have to do a nice clean out on it with some seafoam or something like that up inside. As far as the power steering system goes, let's see what we got in here. Still got power steering fluid, that's good. There is no transmission on this car. The previous owner pulled the transmission as well, but lucky for us, we've got that 6-speed from the E90 that we'll be putting in here. As far as coolant goes, let's take a look down here. Just see if we can. Looks a little empty to me. Oh boy. Well, there's like a little telltale stick in there. Actually, when I push it down, I can feel that there's fluid in the bottom of it. So, hey, there's some fluid in there. I guess it seems just a little bit low. I haven't owned an E46 before, so I'm trying to figure out really what that means. I think that means if the stick comes out when you take the cover off, then that stick comes out of it. That means you got the maximum. But we're below the minimum, but there's still some fluid in there. We'll just have to keep an eye on that once we do the engine swap and start up for the first time. All right, one last thing I want to do before we move on to the next thing. And take a look at the plugs down in here. See how they look. If this thing wasn't running, and if they had the ignition coils pulled off of it, my guess is someone else has probably looked at the plugs as well, but we'll take a look here and see what we got. There we go. Oh boy, look at how clean that is. That's a bit concerning. Being that clean, probably put new plugs in the car, and it probably didn't really run after the new plugs were put in. I mean, there's a little bit of dark on there, but it doesn't look like this plug has really ever fired all that much. So I guess that's just an indication that we got some ignition things going on here. I guess the good news is it's not like soaked in oil or anything. So at least for this cylinder, we're in good shape there. Here, let's talk about what we're going to do to the E36. Aside from doing the drivetrain swap and the M54 turbo in there, you can see there's quite a bit of body rot going on down here. If you remember from the rally video that we did back during wintertime, I had a weight savings idea and executed it out in the middle of the road. So that's the bodywork side. We got to replace the rocker panels, and we're going to have to replace also the lower part of the front fenders. Nice gentleman on Facebook the other day just pointed me in the direction of a supplier in Europe for body panel replacement parts. Patch panels, not the full panels, which is what I'm looking for. and I'm going to learn exactly how to do some body work. So I'll probably learn and make mistakes along the way, but that's just fine. So also you can see back here quite a bit of rust. I had repaired that temporarily with some Bondo in the past, and it lasted a good 3 years, but as soon as it started rusting again, it got pretty gnarly. Also, wanted to point this out here. Back when I met my wife, her father, my future father-in-law, had parked the trailer in her driveway for his boat, and I managed to tag it just a little bit right there. A little bit of surface rust. Grandpa doesn't know about that, but he does now. Oh, you know, and I almost forgot one thing. You probably noticed it when I showed that rocker panel rust. We got a nice dented patina and flaking of paint going on here on the hood. Little background story on this, you may have heard before, but for those of you new, I just had my windshield replaced probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and driving down the road, all of a sudden my hood just goes whoop, and at about 35 miles an hour she folded right back up over the top of the car, and I'm thinking, oh crap, my brand new windshield is ruined. But luckily for me, the hinges down here failed, and basically the front of the hood peeled back like this. So it was probably about 10 o'clock at night in the local city here. Jumped out of the car and slammed the hood down and basically wedged it so it was shut, and I drove nice and slowly on the way home. And when I got home later that night, I had to sort of jam some screwdrivers up underneath there and get the hood open. And now it seems to have realigned itself, because that happened years ago. And man, she opens up perfectly. But we'll be getting a new hood on this beast too. So that's going to wrap it up for the introduction of Project E36 Xti. Really excited to get down to work on this one. It's going to take a while, probably a few months or years or decades, or I don't know how long it's going to take, but it'll be a while. So just be patient, but hang out with us as we go along and enjoy the episodes, because this one's going to stretch out into quite a few different projects. We're going to learn a lot along the way, and I hope you do too.